authenticity enables accessibility, right? If I am who I am at all times, and I don't think of myself as some like cool business guru, growth guy, blah, blah, blah. I'm just a dude. I'm just a person. I have similar dreams and passions and energies, but fears and insecurities, we all have them. And I'm willing to talk about them because vulnerability isn't weakness, it's strength. In all life scenarios and situations, remove judgment of yourself and others around you and give grace to those around you and yourself.
Our guest today is a Business First 30 Under 30 class of 2019 awardee. He's a supercharged community builder, coach, LinkedIn expert, speaker, and consultant to a variety of high-growth startups, small to mid-sized businesses, and enterprises. He recently was minted as Growth Strategist for Incept Digital, a full-service digital marketing company working with clients like Coca-Cola, Holiday Inn, Labatt Blue, and more. Welcome to the show, an agent of action, a catalyst of connectivity, an inspirer of impact, a purveyor of passion, and a galvanizing giver, Johnny OZmosis Osberg.
Let's go. As you read that, I was thinking kind of like a Muhammad Ali introduction. Not that I would liken myself to him, but he was so well spoken with his, rhetoric and his words, and I try to do the alliteration there, right? So your delivery was 10 out of 10. Well done, brother.
Thank you. And the intro has me amped. Like as I'm saying it, I'm like, I felt like I was doing an 80s wrestling promo. Like, what you gonna do when Johnny OZmosis is running wild on you, brother? Like, oh man, we've been people who do not maybe know our connection. We're both Buffalo guys. Funny enough, we've had multiple conversations. A few of them started 2 years ago. We've always been talking about kind of appreciating what the other person's doing and keeping close watch on it. And we have not physically met in person and still have not checked that off. But we're getting closer. We're getting a little bit closer.
We are. We'll actualize that soon, brother. We'll actualize that soon.
I'm watching you on social media. Guys, if you don't know Johnny, you got to tune into his social media. He's all over the place. And he's literally all over the place. Like you're putting Forrest Gump to shame. I mean, the running that you're doing, the 4x4x4x8, is it called? They recently
4x4x48. Very close. Yeah, it's a mouthful. The 4x4x48 was just recent. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk about more on that in a minute. I just wanted to tease it, but you are literally physically all over the place, and I'm honored that I got you to sit still for about 45 minutes. So we're going to take it and run with it.
The classic I get when I'm at events, which are kind of few and far between still, but the old classic I hear is, did you run here? So anyone that might be watching this, I'm not trying to, make fun of you, but I've heard it a million times, and it's funny, but I appreciate that. And I appreciate the mention of that. And yeah, I'm honored and humbled, or actually I'm great and I'm grateful, right? I'm being great and I'm being grateful to be here. BG, let's go. So shout out to that brand, to you. Thanks for having me.
No problem, man. Appreciate you being here. Let's kick this thing off and actually get right into your personal brand since we're talking about it. You're in Western New York. You're the founder of the Power of OZmosis Consulting, which is really cool. I want to hear a little bit more about that. Give us the inside scoop. You talk about a human-first growth coaching. I want to hit on that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. So to kind of go back in time, I would say nearing the end of 2019, I found myself in not so great of a place, whether it was mental, physical, emotional, health. They were all lackluster, we'll say. So late December, after kind of a collection of events, nothing major, but just things that I was noticing in my health, looking in the mirror, the way I was isolating myself, withdrawing from, being in public, being with friends, being with, fellow business colleagues. Something was off and something needed to change. And at the end of 2019, I decided, and right at the beginning of 2020, that would be the year, the comeback, right? As my great friend, Chef Bobby Anderson, who's on Hell's Kitchen here, he's here in Niagara Falls, he would say, the setback sets up the comeback, right? And so I had a series of setbacks, and even career-wise, right? Even with my career, I had a couple interesting things happen in 2019. And so they threw me for a loop. So 2020, I said, I'm going to do things differently. I'm cutting alcohol. I'm cutting out, watching the news. I'm sleeping better. I'm eating better. I'm moving my body. So I embarked on what at the time was just being better, even if it was incredibly small, incremental, minimal. And, by day, I found myself losing weight, starting to have more energy, starting to have a better outlook. And then eventually I started sharing my story 4 or 5 months in, mainly on LinkedIn, and started to get others that wanted to be a part of the journey, that were inspired. And so that inspiration then fueled me to keep going, as one of my wristbands here says, that remind me every day to keep going. And so I ended up losing 60 pounds inside of a year. Wow. I ran a few different marathons, a few different events, started my own business near the end of 2020, which is the Power of OZmosis. I've got my shirt. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Steve Colton of Encore Golf for creating this for me. Yeah. My slogan is connect, collaborate, and champion. So my whole goal is to connect with people, all people, right, from all backgrounds, all walks of life, all mindsets. And then after I get to know them and build trust and build a solid relationship, I want to collaborate with them. I want to figure out ways that I can add value, that I can catalyze growth for them. And then at the end, I want to champion that brand. I want to champion that cause. I want to champion that product, that service, that person, because the world needs more great people like yourself, Mike, that are doing a great service to others. That you have these incredible people that come on the podcast, and people will learn and they will find their nuggets of inspiration. So I wanted to have my own way of doing that. So I started OZmosis in September 2020. And, from there, I started a podcast while consulting. And mainly I just focused on things like business development, talent acquisition, business consulting, right? Helping businesses grow and scale, because my background was very entrepreneurial leading up to that point. So I'd been a part of a couple of cool companies where we catalyzed a lot of growth. So at a very high level, though, right now, it's an interesting time that I'm in, because one of my clients at the end of last year in 2021 hired me, hence the intro that you started with Incept Digital. So it's really been a cool journey. It's not for the faint of heart, in terms of being an entrepreneur and being someone who, wants to be involved in a lot of different causes. But I find myself today really focused on Incept Digital and helping scale that business, which is based here in Buffalo. They're, again, full service digital. We are a full service digital marketing firm. And so I do have OZmosis going, where I do coaching, I do some consulting, I do speaking. I've got a couple speaking events coming up, but it's really been full court press on helping Incept catalyze more growth for itself here in year 10 of their existence.
Guys, if you tune into John, you're going to notice one of the biggest things he does extremely well: connection. Did you hear that word? Connectivity, connection. His network, right? You always hear your network is your net worth. I do believe it. And a lot of the things that have come your way are not just by accident. It's because you're surrounding yourself around other people that are in that think up, that reach up mentality that you have, and they see they literally your spark. That your branding is not by accident with the lightning bolt. Your energy is through the roof, and it's not over the top like obnoxious. It's over the top like you want to take this brand. You're working with someone. They hired you. They hired you for a project. They hired you as a coach. You're going to take it from where it's at, and you're going to try to do your best to get it to the potential, and then even push it. You're not interested in just being better than average. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted you on the show, and that you and I resonated from the beginning, because we follow a lot of the same influencers and stuff, and that word gets loosely thrown around, but we resonate at the same level. And that's one of the main reasons I wanted to hear, brother.
Appreciate that. Yeah, really well said, right? It's at the end of the day, right? We are all incredibly different, right? So diversity is a huge thing that I'm fully immersed in and believe in. But while at the same time, we're all very similar, right? So nowadays, especially because of what's been happening, and trust me, I have my hands in a lot of different projects that are civil rights, social justice related. So diversity is really, again, at top of mind. It's that we are all different. We all come from different backgrounds, but how can we all come together and find that unity and find those similarities? And I want to say it was Abraham Lincoln who actually the quote comes from, where it basically is, we are all right. We are all different. I mean, anyone can see that, but a truly wise person can see that we are also all the same. Mm-hmm. I have my dreams. I have my passions. I have my fears. I have my insecurities. You the same. So I think it's a mixture. It's a balance, a zig and zag between. I got goosebumps while I'm talking about this. Didn't plan to really share like this type of insight, but I think there's that zig and zag and balance of, yes, we are very different, but we're also very similar. How do we fuse those? How do we meld those together to then create action, which allows us to catalyze and achieve that growth?
Exactly. Yeah. Just thinking about it or talking about it or being around the right people. That's the kind of the beginning. That's the door opening. And then it's okay. We got a lot of work to do and put it into action. And you're a
That's right.
disciplined guy, man. And discipline, I think, is one of the biggest keys, if not the key to someone's success, because you could have great ideas. You could be really good on camera. You can be great in meetings. But if you're not disciplined and consistent over time and persistent over and over and over, just like, man, like a machine almost. And I see you doing that with your fitness. Now, if you can get yourself up at 4 o'clock in the morning and by 5 o'clock you've run a lap and done push-ups and stuff, then it's going to help you in your business. And I see you smiling and head your nod for those that are listening. Can you just talk about like your dedication to you talked about 2-3 years ago, kicking into gear because you were in a tough spot that you had to break through, but now you've maintained it through discipline. Talk about the power of that.
Yeah. One thing you'll notice too, part of that collaboration is I do a lot of shout outs. I've already shouted out a handful. So whether they're people from the past or, current contemporary friends of mine, whatever. So this one's out to, Yoga Steve Procknell here in town, but he's also known across the region and in the country. He's a mindfulness coach, a teacher, a fitness, influencer enthusiast. And, we've all heard it, but I first heard it from him: win the morning, win the day. And before I even get to that discipline, I'll step back. So to the beginning, right, where I had no idea, Mike, what I was doing, right? I didn't have the right gear. I was way overweight. I was groggy. I was tired. I was sore, right? And it's a matter of getting through. Like, if there's someone listening right now or watching on the other side of this that's maybe in that position or near that, right? Know that, if you can get through those, and again, this is a classic thing that we hear on from other, Ed Milet or Rich Roll or any of those incredible podcasters, but I'm going to reinforce it here. You can get through the slog of the first 30, 40, 50 days of just get up, put your shoes on, get out and move your body, right? It's something I talk about in my coaching all the time. Like, if you ran 5 miles 2 years ago, but haven't run since then, do you really think you're going to go out right now and say, well, I ran 5 miles 2 years ago? And I think I definitely can still do that, because, right, ego and pride get in the way. And then guess what happens?
Yeah.
You go and you do it and you blow yourself out and you have shin splints, you have issues, you have an injury. And guess what now? You don't want to go do that again. So there you go. You're dead before you even start. So, but for me, it was just to stay in it, stay with it. Right. And so I had some really impactful things happen in the beginning of 2020. A shout out, another one, to my great friend, USMC retired Nicholas Martone, who's also the founder of Team Fast, focusing on always strengthening our troops. That acronym stands for. I met him through some great friends at the West New York PGA, here, our local golf section. And, you talk about energy. I mean, he and we were crying in the first time we met, just talking about some of the things we had been going through, for him, his deployments. And so anyway, he was one of those sparks for me, where I went to a lunch early January 2020 to reconnect with some friends and meet Nick for the first time. I heard great things. And by the end of that, Mike, I was signed up for the Buffalo Marathon. I was signed up for the Buffalo Marathon because they were running it that year to raise money for PGA, right, the PGA section, but also then for Team Fast. So I was in. I knew that I was 2 weeks into my not drinking and being healthier, and I said, I need to put a line in the sand, right? I need to put a date on the calendar that says you have to be ready by late May 2020, right? Or else, right? You'll be embarrassed. You're raising money. You're raising awareness on this incredible cause. And I'm thinking about vets, and I'm thinking about those who've sacrificed and suffered, right, on behalf of our freedom. So, I had that, I call it a visceral cause, right? I had a visceral vision, if you will, that every single day I was lacing up because I had to go and I had to get closer to that goal of being ready for that marathon on behalf of our vets. So that was huge. But then COVID comes, right? And uncertainty and all of that. But what it did allow was work from home and, more flexibility, and could still be out moving, walking the dog. So it was a curse, but it was a blessing too, in certain ways for me, being able to keep moving my body and keep, losing that weight and staying in it and getting better. So that said, well, and if you had a question, I don't mean to, I'm ranting a little, but I was just going to say the consistency thing, the discipline thing. It's obviously that in itself is not for the faint of heart either, right? To get up and be discipline every single day, or whatever, 5-6 days a week to get up. It I'll tell you, it's been a challenge at times for me. Because business can, if there are business challenges that can creep into our personal lives, right, in our fitness lives. So I would say that in the last 6 to 9 months, I've been waxing and waning, but as of the last probably month to 2 months, I've really kind of found my stride again. And so I guess the concept there is to give ourselves grace, right? Give ourselves grace and allow ourselves to feel those emotions, and then continue, even if it's incremental progress forward, just something small. Go out for a walk, right? Walk down to the end of the street and back, whatever it might be. Thank you for asking that, though.
It's interesting you said that. A mutual friend of ours, give a shout out to Robert Grant, Omega Red.
Yeah.
He just posted today. One of the first things I read when I got up this morning was him just talking about like one rep and like one page of a book, and just stack these like mini wins. And then if you do that over time, eventually you're reading a book in a month, and you're reading a book every 2 weeks, and and you're actually into it. But if you're like pushing it off because you're waiting to be fully ready for something, your body, your energy is not going to get to that place and then just start. Right. You need to build into it over time, just like with anything. Like, this is a totally random thought, but like coffee drinking. When I first drank my first cup of coffee, it was loaded with sugar. It was loaded with milk. The thing barely had any coffee in it, right? And now I drink black coffee because over time I was able to get myself to that.
Right.
It wasn't something I did in one day. So it definitely, when you're doing something and you want to make change, the best thing you can do is make little incremental changes over time. We're going to get to a break in a moment. Before we do that, I want to hear, we talked about connectivity, and I did have a question about something that you're doing in your branding, and you've actually co-founded this, you created it. It's a social connectivity platform that empowers athletes and influencers to maximize the monetization of their brand. So I like the name that you guys have is Brandlete.
Yeah.
Really cool. Brandlete.
Thank you.
Can you share your vision on that with us?
Yeah. Appreciate you. Great research, man. I'm impressed, and appreciate the opportunity to kind of share more about this. This is newer. I was actually approached just after having a lunch with a friend who said, John, have you ever co-founded anything? Like, I had been employee 1 or employee 2, but never really an actual co-founder. So not maybe a few days after that lunch, that, totally unrelated, right? But it planted a seed. I had actually someone reach out to me and say, hey, I'm looking for a co-founder for this. I think you could be a great fit. Let's have some chats. And so the gentleman's name's Judd Simon. He's our co-founder and CEO of Brandlete. And this is his baby. He came up with this, right? He ideated it. He's done the market research. He's been validating it. And so he comes to me and says, hey, here's the vision. So the vision, what we're trying to do, just in the last, 6 months, we'll say, the NIL space, name, image, likeness space, has blown up because of recent legislations passed in many states that allow high school and college athletes to monetize their NIL. And so it's created, almost a $10 billion a year business, not overnight, but almost overnight, right? And so my now co-founder, and who's become a good friend of mine in these last 6 months, started doing the research, started doing the reach outs. He's got his connections, in Syracuse and different parts of the region that are laden with pro athletes and college athletes and former athletes. So our vision is to create, we are in the process of doing this with a lot of local Buffalo, New York based partners, one of them being Incept. So this is back to that collaboration, that connectivity piece, right, MD? And so basically we want to create this marketplace where athletes can go, brands and companies can go, and then we can facilitate those connections so that we'll call them I don't like using the word lower, but let's say the lesser followed accounts, maybe that 20 to 70 or 80,000 follower account, for an athlete or an influencer who, a lot of times people think if you have that number of followers, you must be killing it. But the story is actually different, right? You sometimes are not, because you just don't know how to navigate through that world of getting connected to the right brands and sponsors so you can continue monetizing and growing your personal and professional brand, right? So
it's a good problem for them to have. Like they built up, if that's natural followers, if that's
right.
not paid follower, then obviously they've been doing something extremely well. But the thing that you're getting at, I just want to hit on, is that they don't always know exactly what it is to monetize it.
Right.
Like they could just have great content, but they're not sure what does that do for them, right?
Exactly.
Like, okay, so I have thousands of video views a day, but now what do I do with it?
Convert
And
it,
so
right?
that's where you guys come in, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Great problem to have,
yeah.
but there's more to the story than just being popular.
Absolutely. So to bookend it, right, we're focused right now on athletes. We've got a series of beta testers that are currently in the wings, and we're working with some other folks in town that I'll spare to name, but they would be well known at least here in this region, because we have yet to fully formalize a working agreement with them, but we're close. And that's just going to help us continue to get closer, right? So as a startup, any startup folks would know, we're at that 0 to 1 phase, right? We're almost at 1, right? Which is that MVP, that clickable prototype. We're almost there. And then once we're there, we go to investors. And so, I've got a network of them, great folks that are strategic in nature in terms of investors. And, Judd certainly has several himself. So our order of operations are set up. We're just kind of plugging along while we can. He consults for our West Coast based, health tech company. And obviously I've got several different things I'm focused on. So it's kind of moonlighting early morning, later in the day, weekends. We have a standing meeting that's like 2 to 3 hours. So it's, there's a lot going on, but thanks for asking.
Yeah, no problem. I was genuinely interested in hearing more about it. I like that. There's more to come on that, so I'll definitely be keeping a close watch. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break, hit our sponsors, give them some love. We will be right back with John. Podcasting is a great way to engage with your audience and stay consistently relevant. The only problem is you don't have the time or desire to produce your own show. You simply want it done for you, and that's where Social Chameleon comes in. All you need to do is press record and upload the files. We'll handle the rest. From planning, production, post-production, distribution, and digital marketing, we have you covered. We realize that times are tough and funds are tight, and Social Chameleon believes in building supportive business relationships. By clicking on the link in this promo, we'll provide you 7 free podcasting tips to get started, as well as a free 30-minute online consultation. This is the perfect opportunity for entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, industry experts, influencers, and anybody who has a personal brand. With Social Chameleon, we help you build a brand that is out of this world. We're ready and waiting, so what are you waiting for? Click on the link to get started today. Hey guys, it's Mike. I'd like to give a proper shout out to Navigator Bookkeeping. Look, for a long time, I ran my business without really understanding the full financial picture. I used my gut and my bank account balance to make decisions, which led to some poor choices and constant stress over my business's finances. I knew something needed to change. At the beginning of 2021, I made a decision that helped pave a more clear path for my business. I started working with Navigator Bookkeeping. Since then, my bookkeeping has been handled for me. I now understand the full financial story of my business, making important financial decisions much easier now, and it helps me plan for where my business is going. I highly recommend giving Navigator Bookkeeping an opportunity to help your business. Check them out at navigatingyourbooks.com. Again, that's navigatingyourbooks.com. It's time to know the full financial story of your business. All right, guys, we're back in action with Johnny Osmosis Osberg. You can connect with him all over on social media. The links are clickable in the show notes, making it super easy to connect. Our man right here, John Osberg, he's wired differently if you couldn't tell. He's got the lightning bolt in his logo. I love it. He actually has that. Like you would think that this guy, you think that, John, that you were struck by lightning or something. He gets him a few additional superpowers. I love
Very kind.
what you're all about. Because as I mentioned before the break, it's real. This is really you. You're not putting an act on. You're not coming in. You're not, all the stuff that I see you doing on social, I know comes right back to your heart. You have a shirt, and I believe it's in your either your profile pic or one of the pics that I saw you in, and it says, I am, and I am is bold, passionate. You're a passionate dude, and I can tell it's real, and it's tied to your heartstrings.
Appreciate that.
And I just want to ask you a question about that. So is this something like, let's go back to what's happened in the DeLorean. Let's go in the time machine now. 12-year-old Osmosis, right? So what were your aspirations as a kid? Did you always have influences in your life that helped you? Did you have this desire for greatness when you were a kid?
I got to tell you, man, I've been on a lot of podcasts and have had a lot of, shows myself where I've been the host, and I've never had the what's 12-year-old osmosis. What was he like? So thank you. I almost get emotional thinking about it. Just, there was never really any one moment in my life. Like the one thing that I'm super grateful for, and actually tandem to the I am passionate shirt, I have an I am grateful shirt too, which is right in your wheelhouse with the be great, be grateful. Because gratitude is it's the really the spice of life, man. It's what keeps us going. To be grateful, even if we only have like one set of clothes and somewhere warm to sleep, like that's better than not having those things, right? So practicing gratitude. But 12-year-old me, I grew up, in a home where, two people who were really public interfacing. My mom's a pharmacist still to this day, and my dad's a psychologist. And they work with people. They solve problems. I love, of course, both my parents dearly. I would have to say, though, that the influence comes probably in a greater format from my father being a psychologist and the work that he did. And also, he's basically a modern day Vincentian, right? So St. Vincent de Paul, who was one of the founders of Niagara University, my alma mater here in Lewiston, New York. Our whole ethos, right, is all about serving those who were never served, underprivileged. Let me step back. Never served, underserved, underprivileged, disenfranchised people. And when I look at my life, I've had a beautiful life. I've had a great life. I've got great friends, great support. I've never wanted for anything for the most part. And there's so much need, and there's so much. Really, the word we'll use is need, but of course there's tragedy, there's trials and tribulations. And so because I'm in a position where I have my health mentally, physically, I've got connections, I've got experience and skills. It really is just deeply, deeply ingrained in me to serve others. And so my life ethos is keep serving to keep soaring. And I throw in the eagle logo, call out to my Niagara University Purple Eagles alma mater. But there was never really one thing that happened, I think, Mike. It was just seeing my parents serve people, seeing my parents involve themselves in all communities, from people, all walks of life, all ethnicities and heritages. And then just growing up with fantastic, again, as I got older, my father instilled in me that you see people doing things that you like, that you want to be doing, then find every which way you can to get into their circles, right? As he would say, and others too, I'm sure, attach yourself to their coattails. So I got really.
So he did have that conversation happen. Your dad kind of said
It did happen
when you were younger and your developmental 12 to 18.
Yeah,
that's a big gap. The reason I said 12 is I was going to say younger. It's like, man, I got a 7-year-old daughter. I don't know. It's one day she wants to be a veterinarian because she's got a cute puppy stuffed animal, and the next day she's like, I want to work at Target the rest of my life because I think it's fun here. And I'm like, okay, we'll figure. I love to hear that she's got these ideas in her head, but it's real tough, to really quite pinpoint it. But I think at 12 you're starting to eye up. You're kind of like have a lot of who you are already is formed, and you look at that 18-year-old kid that's in the neighborhood, and you kind of start to think about like, hey, when I go, you might be starting some of those bigger picture thoughts. And it sounds like you were. So your dad was feeding you some of that. Hey, man, yeah, we're taking care of the people in the community. And you kind of gave you a little bit of that.
Yeah,
think
it was like a constant kind of layering,
service.
Right? Exactly. Just the servant mentality, right? Servant leadership, service minded. The phrase like the Kennedy family basically used to say, it was either the Kennedys or the Bushes, right? Their whole thing was here to serve, right? So I find myself saying that in my head or sometimes out loud when I'm going about my daily, being on different community, nonprofit boards. Co-chairing different events, fundraisers, like, back to the 4x4x48. That was really an exercise to raise money and funds on a great cause, which you said we'll get to. But it really always just comes back to the greater good, right? It comes back to the bigger picture. We have 2 ears, we have one mouth. And even though I'm talking a lot, right, I tend to try to really listen more than I speak. Because you learn that way. You can't learn when your mouth is open, right? When you're talking, right? You can only learn when you're listening, in my opinion, and taking notes and really absorbing and immersing in whatever is being said to you, being taught to you. So it's always about the other person. And that's part of maybe in that, if you've seen it on my LinkedIn, I go by the Buffalo Batman kind of in my own mind is just my alter ego, right? Where It's just,
I saw the Batman quote and I thought it was appropriate.
yeah, if you make yourself more than
Yeah.
just a man, if you devote yourself to an ideal, and if they can't stop you, then you become something else entirely, right? And
Yeah, I
it's
love
top
that.
of
Yeah.
mind at all times, all times.
Yeah, I'm going to interject here, not
Please.
to interrupt you. First of all, you're the guest on the show, so you're allowed to talk more than you're listening today. I know when I've been interviewed too, it's always this weird struggle. I'm like, I am talking a lot right now, and even on my show, I catch myself like, all right, dude, pull it back,
Yep.
give Osmosis the microphone. Yeah, you just said we're going to get back to 4x4x4x48, and this is the perfect spot because my next question, you can tie it all in, put a big bow on it. All right, you got your speakers there. You're highly influenced by a man named David Goggins.
Yeah.
And this guy is just an incredible beast of a human being. There's one, and his name's David Goggins,
Right on.
right? So I want you to share about how he's inspired you and then talk about, because I don't want to answer the questions because I don't know if that's exactly the moment that you decided to do this, is the David Goggins story, but how does that all connect to the 4x4 situation?
Yeah, so Goggins is actually a Buffalo, New York native. He has the book.
That's right. Dude, I actually forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I discovered him years ago, thanks to a friend, Bob Pawalski, who's here in town, a local CFP. And he shared. So David Goggins was in a book called Living with a Seal by Jesse Itzler. Itzler's obviously a well-known, business kind of tycoon, grower, and fitness guy too now, thanks to Goggins. And so, yeah, Goggins, Buffalo, New York native, had a really tough childhood, really tough, and even into his later years in life. So he, became a Navy SEAL, which took him 3 tries, the most in history, I think, of the Navy SEALs. And so, this dude, he realized he had a story when he was, getting maybe later in his military career, and then he retired and came out of military and realized that he needed to tell this story, right? It's in line kind of with how I feel about my life with where I came from, right? Where there are other people who will take, inspiration from the journey that I've been on, even though I might think, well, who's this really going to resonate with? And that's actually a line from Goggins that I can hear in my head from his, videos on YouTube and motivational stuff, right? He first thought, like, who's really going to resonate with this? And then he realized, like, no, like, there's going to be a lot of people that do. And so, he was absolutely a spark in my, I would say, maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago when I first discovered him, read the book Can't Hurt Me, New York Times bestseller. Can't recommend it enough. Still like in the top 10, I think, 5 years later, whatever it is, 4 years later. But he's actually the guy who started the 4x4x48. So it started actually in 2020. I actually didn't realize it was in 2020. I never even knew about it. But then last year, I learned of it through a good friend, and we did it together, actually, Yoga Steve Procknell. And so last year we did, the 48 miles in less than 48 hours. We raised some money for Roswell and for PGA Reach Western New York Foundation. And so that was really neat. I ended up doing a little more than 48 last year, just because, again, it goes back to that, like you called it, that reach up mentality.
Did you say 48 miles in 48 hours?
Yeah. So
and you're not running on a treadmill. You're running through neighborhoods and stuff.
I mean,
correct?
Hey, listen, if I actually ran on a treadmill, I'd consider myself even sicker, because to do that, I think there actually are people who've done that in the past or mixed in treadmill. But no, the way I've done it the last 2 years,
it's outside,
outdoors,
in the elements. We're in Buffalo. We don't have beautiful elements in February when you pull
it's
this
all about
off,
armoring the mind. That's a Goggins phrase, or callousing the mind, right? So, finding those tougher, how can I make it harder, right? So go run in 5 degrees, go run in the
Guys,
rain.
we're talking 30 it was like probably 25 degrees when you did this, and he's shirtless. He was wearing shorts. I made,
Dude, I mean,
you said you weren't wanted by the law, so I'm assuming you were covered appropriately, but you didn't have a shirt on running through, and he's like, doing like LinkedIn lives and stuff.
Yeah,
I
a
was
lot
just
of
like,
LinkedIn.
man, this guy.
Yeah,
you were killing it.
I appreciate
So that was a Goggins that started all actually. I figured it was influenced by him. I didn't know it was actually his concept.
Yeah, he started. So you run 4 miles you run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours, right? So when you peel that back, you realize, man, when do I sleep? Well, you don't really do that. You don't really sleep. So it started March 5th, was it? No, March 4th this year at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. because he was out on the West Coast. So literally at 11 o'clock, I had a crew of folks, the founder of Team Fast, mentioned earlier, Nick Martone. He and his lovely lady joined, and it was just the 3 of us out there at 11 o'clock and 18 degrees in the dark. Right?
11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
you're hanging out with your friend, his wife, you said,
his girlfriend,
and
right? So we go out, we do the
his
4
girlfriend. Yeah.
miles, right? And we got, again, because it's, this is a vet support cause that, again, I like to broaden the work that I do, right? So it's vet support, it's folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities, it's youth, it's civil rights and social justice, it's education, science and technology, and the list goes on. Because I just like to, see how much can I do, how much impact can I actually levy. So to finish the 4x4 though, this year we leveled it up. I leveled it up, and I actually ended up doing 52.4 miles in 44 hours because it's not actually 48. You have 48 hours to complete the challenge, but it basically works out to like 44, 45. So barely slept. And this year, as a thanks to AP Piovich, who runs Hatchets and Hops here in Buffalo and Brooklyn, he actually had the idea for me to source, runners, like invite runners, my friends, whoever, donate to the cause. So we raised just over $2,000 in like a day or two. And it all goes 100% right to Team Fast. So that'll benefit military veterans who are having PTSD struggles or other decompression issues. And it was just a beautiful exercise of the mind, the body, community, support, energy, all over 2 days. We had like 15 different runners come out. Again, over $2,000, and we ran a lot of miles.
Yeah, it reminded me of that scene in Forrest Gump. Literally, I know I've talked about it a couple times where there's people following you, and you got the beard. I mean, you did it in a shorter window. The beard wasn't as long, but I wouldn't be surprised if you do something over more of a duration run that you have the beard. You're the real life Forrest Gump in that.
That's
situation.
cool. I love that.
Couple grand raised in
Short
a
time.
couple days is no joke. That's some big stuff there. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you, brother.
Supporting the community and all the good stuff you do. Hey man, when John's not out there running around like a madman, you know what he's doing? He's on the golf course like a madman. He's smashing golf balls 275 yards into the distance.
That's my 3-iron.
And I know
Mike.
that's
we're
your
not,
3-iron, brother. I was going to say 300.
I'm just being funny. I had to.
I researched it. I'm like, I was going to say 300. Then I saw that 2% of pro golfers can actually hit it in the air 300. I was like, I don't know, bro. Let's give him 275.
I'm just being funny. So it's all good.
I know. Talk about the bad business. What is it? I want to call it the right thing. Bad Golf Business School. You started that as well, right?
Yeah. So shout out though to Clark Dever, who was Techstars Buffalo when it first came here, and now he's still part of Techstars. But a lot of folks know Clark. The guy's incredible connector, startup scaler, community builder. And so actually Clark had the idea originally. And I think he actually might have even, he came up with the name. So again, more kudos to him. But basically his whole thing was, I'm going to start this part of the, Techstars Buffalo chapter in 2019. Golf is a big deal when it comes to business building and community building, right? And just, making connections and having fun and honestly learning a lot from the game, right? You can learn a hell of a lot about somebody by playing golf with them, right? Seeing how they play. Do they cheat? Are they angry? Are they honest? Are they patient, right? Are they even keeled? So he came up with the name.
Never thought about that. That's a really good personality test.
It sure is.
Spend 8 holes, or 9 holes with someone.
Clubs, and swearing.
Yeah.
So Clark came up with the concept and basically said, hey, like, I don't really want to run this. I'll be a part of it in the beginning, but I have a lot of other things that I need to stand up and activate and keep growing. So he's like, hey, listen, like, you're the golf guy. You've worked for golf companies. You're part of different, nonprofits that are golf related. You're the guy. And then he also tapped the gentleman named John Capel, who runs Intersect 3D Manufacturing. And so that was some years ago. We've since evolved, and really it's been just me at this point, even though it's been quiet. And I think it's a function of COVID and some of the uncertainties, and then just busyness of myself. Obviously, we've run through a lot of different brands here, but basically the whole intent is to give access to the game of golf and the beauty that can be catalyzed and again, meeting people and just having fun and building business and commerce and community. And so it really is to come up with this disarm environment. So Mike, before COVID hit, it was year 2, and right. So the start of 2020, we were averaging anywhere from 50 to 100 people on a biweekly basis that would come out to one of the golf domes here in town, and they'd show up. We'd have West New York PGA professionals there who were there to do, coaching and connecting with people. We had, different individuals there that, like Encore Golf or Verde Golf, and local golf companies that were there to also support. And so basically people showed up, whether they had clubs or not, they could hit some balls, they could have a bite, have a pop, and they can connect with each other. And so I'll tell you, Mike, now that we're talking about this, it's really like, I'm going to start, kind of resurrecting.
I could see your energy, like your energy level
I'm getting
just
excited
changed when we're talking about golf.
But to bookend it though, people got jobs. Some of these were executive level jobs. Some of them were entry level jobs, but people were connecting with others that then in turn it catalyzed, career opportunities. There was funding that came in. There were companies that collaborated together. There were people that made new friends. There were several people, I can remember it clearly, that were like, I'm new to the area. I like golf. I don't either they knew a lot about golf or they didn't really, but they saw that this was a disarmed environment, welcoming all, come and have some fun. And it was just really cool. So I get a lot of questions about it, but because of, several other things that are kind of brewing, it's been quieter, but I have a plan of action to bring in some new energy, new, resourcing, if you will, that we're going to resurrect this thing in the near future. So bad golf.
Hey man, the weather's breaking, so more people getting out there hitting the ball. Yeah, it's I like the name too, Bad Golf, because it kind of like puts the guard down. Like, look, okay, we're not pros. We're not all pros. Some of us are going to play better than others. We're just here looking to connect, have a good time, do some great things in the community, and really good branding tells you that without telling you that. And so kudos to that. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but man, I think we covered like 3, now 4, possibly 5 different things that you've been involved with. Some are brands that you've literally started and you founded the company. Others you've got tied to, connected to, and are a partner in some way. Plus, you're doing all your fitness stuff. I mean, there's just a lot going on. What would you say are the 3 greatest factors to your success?
3 greatest factors to my success. That's a great question. I would start, of course, with gratitude. I mentioned it earlier, right? Just I joke with people. I don't know, and I'm sure they're out there, but I joke with myself. I don't know if you'll find a more grateful person. I catch myself just overthanking people, right? Like saying thanks like 5, 10 times. Just trying to be polite, trying to be grateful, trying to be friendly. But with myself, just realizing that, even though there's turbulence at times, sometimes more than I'd like it to be, I really there's so much to be grateful for, again, in terms of health, in terms of family, in terms of, career and community and connections. And I would say leading with gratitude is probably the best way. Just to, you wake up, it's another, again, cliche, but it's true. It's another gift. It's another day to go do our thing and to try to actualize greatness. I'd say that's probably one. I think the other one is compassion, to a fault. I would say, honestly, Mike, I heard from someone who really has influenced me from afar, this gentleman named Tommy Rivers Pusey. He's a fitness, just poet, incredible guy, incredible story he's had. But he talks about how he himself feels that he absorbs and metabolizes other people's energy and emotions. And that's something that I found to be, it can be considered a superpower, but at times too, there's always that balance where, it can start to kind of drag you down because there
can be a little bit of an energy suck too. Like, yeah,
and I want to be able to.
But you know what? I'm gonna pause because I want to tell you, I'm an emotional guy.
Yeah.
And I also kind of wear my heart on my sleeve, and you can usually tell how I'm feeling because a lot of times, I don't know if that's necessarily a great trait to have, but I'm real. I'm not fake.
Right on.
And people know, like if I'm feeling someone's pain and I'm sympathizing and really feeling it, like you could tell. And you're saying, hey, that could be almost to a fault. But I'll tell you what, though, this is my 2 cents, is that never stop being real, never stop caring. Because, there's a lot of people who put up a barrier so they don't get impacted. And they may be excellent in business because they can make quick decisions and they're not having any emotions tied to it. Hey, maybe that's like who you want as like your army general. You don't want that guy to be real feely, wishy-washy. He's got to be like, and we have to run ourselves and our businesses similar to that too. But if we don't have any compassion, brother, who are we at the end of the day? We're human beings. And so I would say, I know what you're saying when you say that, but I just want to remind you that I think it's a beautiful thing that you have compassion. And yeah, you got to be a little careful because you don't want someone's drama to take you at your 15 out of 10% level down. Right. So I feel you, but just, I think that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Your
It means a
compassion is a
lot.
big part of,
It means a lot. I appreciate it, especially in a time now, right, where there's never been a greater need for support. You know, what we see abroad and you know, economically, politically, socially, environmentally, right? Compassion, you know, if we can just inject even a 0.1% more into the world, if you will, it would do a hell of a lot good for us. I would say,
I mean, there's a war going on right now as we're recording
it's
this. I
crazy.
mean, it's yeah.
Modern day.
So, you know, shout out to and much love to the people of Ukraine right now that are just getting their freedoms ripped away from them, and there's school teachers out there fighting just for their lives, and it's just crazy what's going on.
Harrowing.
So, yeah, I
Number
would
3,
say,
though, I got to get you 3. I only did 2 there.
yeah, gratitude, compassion. I mean, I just named 3, or I just said 3, but is there a third
I was
one
just
that
going to
comes to
say,
mind?
you kind of grabbed it, which you could say realness, you could say authenticity, you could say candor, kind of mixed into one. But I think leading with authenticity, right? Like there's a phrase that I live by. It's be the same through the screen as you are on the streets. Right. So like there have been times where, and of course I won't name anyone, but there have been times where I've connected, you know, people electronically, and then you meet them in person and they're totally different. And it could even be jokes aside. I mean, it kind of is funny. You go to LinkedIn and someone's got a profile photo up that's 20 years old, and then you're looking for them at the coffee shop and you don't know who the hell they are. And that's a funny small version, but I'm talking like your ethos, your brand. And I think and you've called it out here too, because that's why that's why we synergize so well, right? We're on the same page, same wavelength, because we are real. And you know, I don't know what it is, but I'm not good at faking. I don't want to fake. I have the courage enough to speak my mind and to be real and own it. And I just think it also helps with accessibility, right? Authenticity enables accessibility, right? If I am who I am at all times, and I don't think of myself as some like cool business guru, growth guy, blah, blah, blah. I'm just a dude. I'm just a person. And I have, again, back to the beginning, right? I have the same, you know, I have similar dreams and passions and energies, but fears and insecurities, we all have them. And I'm willing to talk about them because vulnerability isn't weakness, it's strength. So I would say that's probably number 3, man. That's a great question, though.
Mic drop moment. Vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a strength. That's what this show is all about. People come on here. It's not a brag book podcast. It's not a infomercial for the, you know, we talked about the brands you did, but very much it was about your story and how people can learn through you. What I love is when people tune into the show, I want them to get information that they can level up. And we don't do that if we're not authentic. Like if you and I aren't driving here in an authentic way, then people are going to get kind of surface level stuff and they're not going to feel the conversation. So this is, to me, why I love doing the show is I do my best. I'll just say this. I do my best to make people comfortable so they can be authentic on the show.
You
Certainly
do
they
a
don't
great
have
job.
to share everything, but that's really a goal of mine, and I appreciate you saying that, man. A couple more minutes of your time and energy until you run off. Hey, had to throw it in there,
Run
brother,
off.
because you know me, cracking the jokes.
Love it.
Now here's the scoop. You read a lot, and you got me beat there, I think, because I own a lot of books, but I haven't read all of them, right? And I know you're an active reader. Do you see yourself writing a book yourself at any point in time? Like, is that in the cards?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I would say I'm maybe more alike than you think. I've got, you know, you only see part of the bookshelf, but there's a lot of books there that I will routinely look at and be like, man, I got to read that. When am I going
Yeah.
to find the time? But
What about writing your own? Is that
yeah,
something
it's
that
funny.
you have?
I thought about it. My dad, being a psychologist, you know, and a researcher, he's published a lot. He's been published in global, you know, international, whatever journals, and just an incredible writer, an incredible purveyor of information that's relevant, right? Especially in the world of psychology, of course. But I haven't put a whole lot of thought to it yet. And I know there are a lot of folks out there that have written books. And those books can, you know, again, all I would need is one. If I wrote, what I mean by that is if I wrote a book, all I would need is one person to be impacted by it, because that's the ripple effects then, right? So that person reads that book, they start to, like you say, level up. And then that starts to bleed into their life in a positive way. And it starts to, the family sees it, right? I mean, it's not just inspiring you, Mike, or you inspiring me, but then that inspiration I take in action then will bleed into my family life and the folks that are in my network. So to answer the question, I haven't put a ton of thought to it, but potentially one day.
Well, it's going to lead me to my next question, though, because now we're going to talk about the hypothetical. So imagine this: you're the author and protagonist in your own life story. You get to write the ending, and God willing, you continue to live a healthy and long, prosperous life. You're looking back on it, you're reflecting on it, and you get to define your legacy. What would that be?
Wow. I would, that's really good. That's an awesome question. I think about Les Brown, right? Motivational speaker who talks about, live your life in accordance with what 3 words you'd like people to say at your funeral. And I guess and I could almost use that as an exercise. I would say the 3 words that I'd like people to tag with me are, shoot, man, this is a deep layered thing here. I would want them to say that I was open, right? That he had a level of openness to ideas, to people, to, again, all walks of life. I would want people to say that he was, I'm blanking a little bit, but I think it's,
it's actually coming to mind. I don't want to answer it for you, but the 3 things that you said that have
that's
helped
where I
you,
was going to go.
your stepping stone,
Right.
gratitude, right? Compassion and authenticity.
Yeah.
Like I that really does define you, man. I think it's good that you are able to put a thumbprint on your identity, because I think it's a great, anyone who's listening to this should do that as an exercise, because we're always in go mode, but we don't always step back and like reflect on it and go like, how would I actually define myself?
Right. And that's where I was going, but I don't want to have overlap. It's funny. I sent you something beforehand as a little bit of inspiration, and I have it here in front of me. I just posted on LinkedIn before our pod here. The great Father Joseph Levesque, president emeritus, again, back to Niagara, my alma mater, one of the most incredible leaders, builders of community that I've ever met, and a true, disciple of St. Vincent de Paul. I'll never forget a year ago, this piece of paper, it sits on my desk at all times. You probably can't read it because it's washed out with the ring light, but I'll read it to you. It says, if you had to write the story of your life as it is, as it was, and as you hope it to be, in 6 words or less, what words would you use? And just recently I started to, I've thought about it. I see it sitting out on my desk. I ruminate on it, but I recently I had exactly 6 words, and they were: he led, he loved, he lived. And I try to do the alliterative kind of the L's. It just makes it easier to remember, but led, loved, and
cool.
lived. What would your 6 words be there, MD? And then we'll wrap up.
Oh, he's throwing it right back at me, brother. I actually had an exercise where with my coach, I have a coach that's he kind of double dips. He's a personal coach for me, and he's also a business coach. Because when I'm cooking personally, feeling good, vibing, able to do the things that we're talking about on the show, it makes me better in business. It makes me a better leader. Makes me a better listener. I'm more sharp when it comes to handling tasks on time. I don't know. I'll go with 3, right? So 3 things that I'd say would identify me. I gotta go with gratitude as well. Be great, be grateful. It's something I don't just say it. I don't think it's just a tagline. It's not just supposed to be a catchy thing, but really, like, when you are in a state of true, genuine gratitude, you're not able to, in that moment, that genuine moment, you're not feeling the sadness for other things or this or that, or the news that's on the TV or whatever. Like, you're actually feeling the gratitude of, and then you just start to think about the things you do have, the ability to connect with you right now on this computer, the Wi-Fi, just the ability to have someone like you in my network. Like, I can really internalize that and be grateful for the connection. So I want to be someone who always reminds people, leading them to their purpose. That's my big thing. Like, if someone says, hey, I knew Mike at a pretty close level, like we were close, the thing that I would love them to do, whether it's listening to the show or being a friend of mine or just following my story, is to inspire them to unlock their greatness, in their story. Because I feel like God puts us all here for a purpose. If we have our health and we're able to get through, and do things in life where we can inspire others, I think it's a sin if someone simply lives life to collect a paycheck. Look, I'm not shooting people down here trying to sound pompous. Like, you take care of your family, you got things you got to do. But I ask everyone, what's that superpower? You know what yours is. You're identified it. That's why you're on the show. I'm interviewing you to showcase your story. And I know I'm talking a lot here on the end, but I really want to make sure that I spit this out. It's like to help people understand what's actually inside them, because they do have a purpose. Everybody, when you're listening right now, I'm talking directly to you. You have a purpose. Identify it, figure it out, and it's going to take time. But how can you serve this world within your purpose? Because I was born in 1986. I don't know my end date, but on my end date, I certainly want at least minimum one person, hopefully friends and family, come into that. And then with the podcast, it's expanded to have people be better off because they've known me than me just exist. Because it's like, otherwise you're just throwing away your life,
Talk about a mic drop.
So that's my thing.
Talk about a mic drop.
Bada bing.
Beautiful.
Mic drop right there. So that was a little bit too much on me, but I'm glad that you gave me the floor, because I don't really share it as much. Last thing, I know you got to run. I have to run here. We're a few minutes over. Is there anything that I didn't bring up, because you got so much going on, that maybe I missed? Is there anything you wanted to share today?
I guess at a very high level, no, you've covered. I mean, some things I kind of anticipate, other things I didn't. So it was really a good balance of things that I was ready for and maybe things I wasn't so ready for, but in a good way. I would just say, as someone who started their own thing, so Power of OZmosis, September 2020, I would just, the thing that keeps calling to me right now in my brain is the flexibility in terms of your path. Like, the one thing I think sometimes people might get caught up in is they have this, order of operations that's very set. It's almost static in a sense. Like, this happens, then I go here. Like, even family, get married, kids, this. But career-wise and just in life in general, like, the cool thing that happened for me was I started Power of OZmosis. I did it for a year and a half. I'm still doing it, but just in a different way, and in a different level of, I guess we'll say, energy expenditure and involvement. One of my clients, after a year of serving them and really killing it with them, wanted to bring me in, and it made sense. And speaking very candidly, I needed more steadiness. I needed it. And I would say at the beginning of the year when I first started with Incept, there was a bit of an identity crisis in the very beginnings of it, because it's, well, I'm Power of OZmosis, but now I'm Incept, and now I'm over here. And what are people going to say, right? What are people going to think? And that there is the exact, equation to the all unhappiness, right? Is to think, well, what are others going to say? What are others going to think?
What do they care? Yeah.
Right. So through the greatness of my good friend, Mike Davern, the CEO at another MD, Michael Davern at Incept, our CEO, who's become a really close friend, an advisor, a confidant, him bringing me in and having the faith in me to come in full time at Incept, while allowing me to have latitude and longitude still with all these other things that I'm kind of involved in, always though mindfully layering in, right, Incept in whatever way I can as that connector. It's just, I guess the point is that, there is no actual script, and that, your identity is also not tied to just your career, your earnings, your paycheck, your social media followers, right? It goes back to what you said, that we all do have a purpose, and it's a matter of being very clear with that. And sometimes the vehicles are going to change, right? Sometimes the vehicles of getting that purpose actualized will change, right? I'm mainly in Incept's car, right? If I'm talking vehicles, I am in Incept's car, dialed in for them. We're killing it. It's awesome. But at the same time, I might take an Uber out every now and then again for Power of OZmosis for now, right? Just zipping around a little bit for certain things that pop up. But I didn't want to tie my identity to just Power of OZmosis, because like anything, you become dependent. And if you become dependent on something and you lose it, then tragedy can strike. So the point is just I would say this in finish, where we'll actually mic drop, is in all life scenarios and situations, remove judgment of yourself and others around you, and give grace to those around you and yourself, right? So remove judgment, give grace. That's how I would like to end that. And just grateful to you for having me on the show and spending these last 70, however many minutes we've been together.
Yeah. Bam, there it is, man. This is one of my favorite interviews. And I know you're very humble. You emailed me and you're like, man, you showed that gratitude that you're talking about.
Mm,
You did that for me as well. And I told you, man, I'm as excited to have you on as anybody. Over
appreciate that.
125 interviews.
Amazing.
Your story is incredible. And I've learned a lot from you, just following you. Not even realizing that I'm kind of peeking to see, hey, look what he's doing. Like, he's out there. It's crazy. Let's get together in person.
Love that.
Maybe we get me up and running and moving.
Love to.
I'd love to do that with you, and participate in one of these events. And I love doing things for the community as well. So I can see us partnering on many, many events over the years, and just continue to be great, man. You're doing your thing. Be grateful. I love you, brother. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, MD. Appreciate it, brother. Keep rocking it.
I'd like to give a huge shout out to everyone for tuning in, especially those who listen all the way to the end to hear this message. Seriously, I appreciate you, and my guests do as well. Giving a quick reminder to subscribe to this show. It's completely free and will allow you to receive notifications when new episodes are released. If you'd like to provide a tip as a gift, you can do so via patreon.com/MikeDup. It's spelled MIKED up. Patreon.com/MikeDup. You can give as little as $1 per month or as much as you'd like. Every dollar is greatly appreciated and completely unexpected. Appreciate your reviews and your messages coming in on social as well. Keep them coming. Your feedback is valuable and absolutely means the world to me. You can check out more episodes and content at mikeduppodcast.com. We're powered by Social Chameleon. You can also follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active, and it's at Mike DiCioccio, MikeDiCioccio. Thank you so much for your continued support. You guys know what to do. Be great and be grateful.